Now, sister, do you want to you have something prepared? You were going to talk about the years after you retired when you were living. Oh,
Yes, yes, I
right.
have it ready.
All
Okay,
right then.
all right. When I received my mission to go to St. Elizabeth Youngstown, there were 40 sisters of Humility of Mary living in the convent portion of the hospital. One sister on every department and one a nursing sister on each floor of the hospital at that time. Eventually, a convent building was built attached to the hospital. It had 4 floors, and I was given a room on the 3rd floor. I lived there for several years before being sent down to the 2nd floor. The 3rd floor was then occupied by hospital departments who needed office space. This need increased, and soon hospitals became much busier, needed more space. One evening, Sister Rosemary Murray, our pastoral leader at the time, came into our community room and asked us to begin moving out of the hospital completely and start having small group living. Meanwhile, the maintenance department was remodeling 2 of the buildings across the street on Belmont Avenue, which were used as residence for young interns and their families. This became the place where 5 of us sisters would be living together. 2 of us had the job of packing up all the things we needed for our new living space for group living. 5 of us were the last ones to move out of the hospital convent. There were in our new home 5 bedrooms, 3 on the 1st floor and 3 on the 2nd floor, 1 guest room, the living room and dining room and kitchen. We moved out of the hospital gradually as there was no deadline to get out of the hospital. We took turns cooking an evening meal, and the different jobs were signed up for shopping, cleaning, the different jobs. So that time the hospital took care of all our expenses. Soon all the bills were sent to Villa Maria Mother House for our community, for our little small group living. The 5 of us who lived together at 437 Caroline, apartment 1, were Sister Mary Charles Fields, nursing and volunteering, Sister Andrine Einot, assistant director of nursing, Sister Marianne Sebian, a speech pathologist for pediatrics, Sister Janice McClendon, medical records supervisor, and Sister Margaret Mary Siegfried, volunteer at that time. I had just retired from the pharmacy. One by one, the sisters left our small group. Sister Marianne got a job in Warren treating children with speech therapy. Sister Andrine moved to Louisville, Ohio. She was employed at St. Joseph Care Center. Sister Janice became very ill and had to be returned to the villa. She died soon after. That left the 2 of us, Sister Mary Charles and Sister Margaret Mary. Sister Mary Charles then became very ill and had to be hospitalized, then went to the villa. She only lived a short time, about 2 weeks, having developed cancer all through her. She died April 19th, 2008. I asked to go to the villa with her because I did not want to live alone. Now I'm still living at Villa Maria in the assisted living center called Commons, Villa Maria Commons, room 215, if you want to write to me. P.O. Box 924, Villa Drive, 318 Villa Drive, Villa Maria, 16155. Phone number 724-964-8460. I'll ad lib a little bit. While we were living together, the five of us, we had a great time trying to entertain us and keep up with our community life. Prayer, we prayed the office together at that time after supper or before supper, if we could get together in time. And if we were going to celebrate somebody's birthday or some big occasion, we would get together and decide where we would go out to eat. And we all piled into a one car, five of us, and had a good time for birthdays or feast days. And we did the best we could. At the time, we didn't know a lot about community living because in the hospital, we weren't close to each other sometimes because there's so many activities going on that we weren't together too much. So this is my tough story of trying to answer the questions that you asked me, Chuck. How was the life?
We'll open it to other questions, but do you see
how
my
nice that is.
background picture? That was Sister
Oh,
Mary in 2006. I was on my way to I think it was my 2006, would have been my 40th high school reunion. We stopped off and visited her when she was living on Caroline Street. And so that's all of us.
that's a great picture.
Yeah.
We went out to eat, right, Chuck? We went up to the street up Belmont to a restaurant. We went over. While you were there, we went out to eat.
We did? I don't remember that.
Yeah, we were in. That picture was taken in our living room, I think.
Yeah. Tell me more about when we went out to eat. So I don't remember that too well. What do you remember about that?
Well, at that time, the only time I remembered going out to eat was like the five of us for the birthday, like I said, but all of us went to, Emily was there, I think, Emily and you and Joseph,
Yeah.
Lizzie,
Yeah.
and myself. Yeah,
Wow. And of course, Emily was there too, of course. Yeah.
you had a large automobile. We all fit in one, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you have a great memory, sister. I didn't remember all that. I remember
the waitress commenting on the big family that we were at that time.
Yeah. Well, at least we didn't bring the dogs then. I don't think we had 2000. No, we had Sonny, and Sonny was probably boarded for the trip. Okay, well that's great. Yeah, I came across that picture that I was trying to figure out when it was, and I know because I remember just enough about it that I'm pretty sure we're on our way to Ohio and we stopped and saw you. And I kind of remember getting lost in Pittsburgh too. And of course, everybody, not Pittsburgh, Youngstown. I said Pittsburgh. Yeah.
It's easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think everybody was yelling at me because there are parts of Youngstown you don't want to get lost in. And so everybody was tense because back in those days we didn't have GPS. There was all maps, so and of course I'm the driver and I can't do the navigating part too. So anyway, I took all the blame for it, but we had a great time when we visited. And I do kind of remember, I don't remember going out to eat so much, but I remember your apartment there. Yeah, I thought it was neat. Now, what, that was just kind of, my 2 cents worth. Does Linda or Cindy have any questions about what, Sister Mary prepared for us at all?
No, it's just really interesting to listen to. Sister, thanks for everything that you've done over the years. You certainly made an influence in many people's lives. Yeah, as well as all of ours too. You've been a yeah, big inspiration.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome, sister.
Yeah, well, well, let me just say what I won't say what I was going to say is, you're still loving, but you know, everything we have to say is the kind of testimony one would say when after somebody passed on. Uh, what I was curious about, and think you've answered it, is who paid the bills, and apparently they were all forwarded to the villa, right? Is that
Correct.
how it went?
Each house had a budget, and one of the residents would be the. We took turns being the treasurer, and had to fill in all the forms. Of course, it wasn't computerized then. Now everything's on a computer. But when I was the treasurer, I had to keep track of every penny here. We had what you called open shelf for some things, where you could just get them as a community. You take them off the shelf and not worry about paying for it, because you had, but everything was given to us. So it was a job to keep track of that.
And of
And
course,
then
you were working all of those years, so.
one of the times we had what you called honor system, and we had certain amount of money on kept in a drawer, and you use it for the different categories of expenses, and it was up to each one to keep track of it. It never did work out. And either we didn't know how to subtract, or we didn't know how to add, or something, but it was a joke. So we stopped doing it that way.
Yeah,
Five
but you
people using the sort of like an open shelf.
did you do your laundry in your
Yes, we did. We had to go down the basement. There's a set of stairs, open stairs, where it didn't have a back on it, and it was a winding stairs, and the washer and dryer were down there. We had to sign up for what day we wanted to use them. That was quite a thing.
you were about 71 then, if I do my math right, 1924, we said you were born, or 1925, and
Before.
that was 1996. So we're talking 70 years. I'm older now than you were when we visited you. Yeah.
Yes.
So I've joined the clan, right? The old folks clan.
Oh, we're all getting older.
Uh, well, sister, it's very pleasant to hear you talk about it, and I'm constantly amazed at your memory. That's
Oh,
great.
thanks be to God.
Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. And we're very fortunate that we have you because you're kind of like well, here's one thing I was thinking about today. You originally wrote your story in 2011. Then in 2017, they asked you to write it again. And then, of course, you've been part of all these 150-year-old celebrations for the hospital and Villa Maria. And so your story keeps getting told over and over again. But I'm wondering now, are they going to go another 7 years or something? Are they going to ask you to do it again?
I
No,
hope so.
I put it in my desk drawer, middle drawer, and I'll tell everybody pretty soon. because you never know when your time is up, I never know when I'm going to have another day.
I know.
So
You have to,
you have everything there, Chuck, all my
I
life.
do have everything, yeah.
So
And I probably have a better memory for your life than I do of my own. Oh, I won't say that completely, but I do know a lot about you. And of course, we're all going to think of other things, other questions to ask you because you constantly come up with something. I said, well, that's pretty interesting.
mhm.
So today was no exception. We know how you did your laundry and the winding steps and how the bills were paid and your community shelf. Yep, all very good stuff. I think that concludes my portion of the, unless we have questions from Cindy or Linda. Go ahead, ask her something about her living on her own. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you covered it pretty well, sister. I'm just trying to think if I have anything to ask with that. Yeah, no, you do a really nice job covering it. Like Chuck said, you have a phenomenal memory. I mean, sharing your life story is really, I love hearing it. So you do a very nice job with that.
Was it a safe place where you were living? Could you walk in the neighborhood without worry?
No, we had the bars on the windows, and
Oh,
there was only one accosted. One one time, well, the living room, as you remember being there, that picture was in the living room. It was very small. I was sitting by the front window. Mr. Mary Charles was sitting practically right across from me because we were watching the TV right next to the front door. And this one lady came to the window and motioned for me to come. I could tell she wanted me to come to the door, which is very unusual. And Mary Charles, it happened real fast. She came to the door and pushed her way in, and somehow or other she got me to go back to the kitchen. And I never should have done that. We have a wait for them to ask for prayers. We booked their intentions in over in the hospital. But this lady wanted me to pray for her grandmother who was a patient. And I said, well, sure, put down your name. I'll pray for her. Well, evidently she let somebody in. You see, there's a little entrance to the 4 apartments, 2 upstairs, 2 up above and 2 below. And so there's a little entrance way to go up the stairs. And this lady let somebody go upstairs while I took her to the kitchen. It was a terrible thing. It's the only time I ever remember having any problem with anybody.
wow.
And we paid the security of the hospital right away. And they came to the wrong house. There were 4 different places where the sisters from the hospital convent were. Our house was one of the ones, but there's 2 other ones. And I remember a lot about them too. So if you ever want me to write that, but I don't know whether they want me to write anything about them or not. So I shouldn't offer to write about that.
But they
One
didn't
way to-
hurt you at all, right? They didn't hurt you, did they? Did anybody hurt you?
No, nobody hurt us. I got them. Sister Mary Charles took over right away, and she pushed them out and got her out. And we called security. Well, the security went to the wrong house, and finally that's in my mind. But that was the only time that I had any problem. But we were always worried about. It was the hospital was in a very bad neighborhood. It still is, but it's downtown Youngstown. That's what it is. It's violence all over. Violence, bad. But
Well, I'm glad that you moved to the villa, and the villa, we've been there for a long time now, but the villa is just absolutely beautiful. So
Yes,
very happy.
2008,
there.
I went over there, Cindy.
2008.
I, I got a real nice room overlooking the garden. We call it Central Garden, Central. And it overlooked there. It was the most beautiful place. And Sister Mary Charles was in the what we call visitation. Now it's the Commons, and she only lasted about 2 weeks before she went home to God. And her family came to her pretty much during those 2 weeks, and it's a whole other story, like a by about her illness while we were living together, just the two of us. And it was, she had stroke, open heart surgery, cancer started in the bladder, and it was going through her all the time. As a basis, she had fibromyalgia, which is a form of pain all over your body. And I know she was in pain a lot of times, but we were both volunteers at that time, so we had plenty of time to rest and everything at our house, that little house. And I did the best I could. There was, for a while, she was confined to the second floor, and I would carry up and I would cook it the best I could. I didn't do a very good job with the cooking because she did all the cooking while we were first there, and I did all the cleaning and wash dishes and all that. But she had a lot of different problems while she was there.
I know you took good care of her, and it's a hard job taking care of someone that is sick. So, but she and you were lucky to be with each other. So
She didn't want to move to the villa while she was having all these treatments and all, because she had so many appointments with doctors here and doctors there, and she had to. Well, this is another byline. She has a very good friend, a lady, Dorothy Novotny, that was they were like best friends. I was like a third person in a trio. But she took good care of her to take her to the doctor's appointments and everything. And then she would come to supper with us quite often. And toward the end, she was very sick, and Dorothy called me, and she said, "Sister Margaret Mary, why don't you get Sister Mary Charles in the hospital? You're right across from your big hospital." It was Easter Sunday, and I said, "Well, okay, I'll call." The doctor called back in 10 minutes, and he asked me what he should. In those years, the doctors had to have a diagnosis before they could enter anybody in the hospital. I said, just tell them extreme leg pain. At that time, she told me it was so painful she couldn't hardly stand it. So I told him, and he got her in. We got the last bed in the hospital at that time. It was Easter Sunday morning, and ambulance came to that little house across the street and took her to the hospital. And that's the beginning of the end, so to speak. And the doctor had a whole plan of treatment, chemo treatment and all laid out. And I was in the room with her and several other sisters, one, the superior, and Dr. Gard said, "I have this all laid out." And Sister Mary Charles looked up and she says, "I don't want any of that. I want to go to the villa." So That's when she was taken to the villa for her last 2 weeks on this earth.
Mhm.
So did they have hospice for her at the villa if she wasn't on chemotherapy?
Yeah, they had hospice.
Okay, good.
I'm sure, I don't remember specifically.
So she wasn't in pain and they were taking care
No,
of her.
no.
That's good.
Yeah.
And she had her best friend, and the sister was Lucille Conley. Lucille Conley was already there in the visitation, and so she stayed with her at the end. Everybody thought that we were the best friends because we were living together all those years after the other three had gone. It wasn't that way. It wasn't. She was with Dorothy Novotny most of her time, and also we were different fields all the time. And she was more what would you say, career oriented. I mean, she was going to meetings and that. And she was elected social worker of the year and all. She had a lot of different honors. She was in different fields all the time: nursing and social work, medical social work, and quality assurance. And they sent her to Loyola University in Chicago for a time to become a medical social worker. Oh, and she opened the psych unit. We were the first hospital to have an inpatient psychiatric floor. She and another doctor worked together, Dr. Katchmer, to open the psych unit. They called it the psych unit. Now it's called Behavioral Medicine Institute.
She sounds like a wonderful person, sister.
She had no medical training for 50 years, medical jobs, as you would say, careers. She loved the maternity ward. That was her first nursing supervisor. And in those years, the sisters were put in charge of everything, even though other people had more degrees or more experience. And the sisters were always in charge of each unit, each hospital. That's why when I was sent there, I was put over two other men that had a lot of experience. And the sister was the one in charge, and it wasn't easy to have those. I know they resented me coming in to be placed over them. It's not the way business is run now. You have your resume, and the one with the greatest experience will be in charge.
Sometimes.
Uh-huh.